Hello, everyone, and welcome to Anime Club After Dark's movie reviews, a spoiler-free discussion detailing the good, the bad, and the downright ridiculous of anime movies. I'm your host, Alex, and joining me tonight, I have our czar of source material, John.
It's way too early for this.
It's pretty early for me to do this, too. And we have our chivalry of Shota Shotaro.
No champagne, no cocaine. Why am I here?
What?
Anyway. So we are here tonight to do a movie review of, I think, a movie that both myself and John have found fond memories of for many years now, and that's Interstella 4-5, which I recently learned is how you're supposed to say it. I've always been pronouncing it Interstella 55-55.
Oh, shit. See, I've always pronounced it Interstella 5555, like a freaking
Yeah, I did
plebeian.
5555.
But it's
But
apparently
apparently you're supposed to pronounce it 4-5, the story of the secret star system. This is kind of timely, I guess you would say, John, because of the news last week that Daft Punk has broken up after 28 years together.
Well, they've retired.
Yeah, well, true. I mean, I have a feeling that they're both going to still be in the music industry in some capacity.
Well, I mean, it doesn't come as a surprise because they haven't toured in like 3 years. They haven't released an album in like 8 or something.
Yeah. I like how there was a lot of memes going around, like people were saying Daft Punk hasn't released a video on YouTube in a while, and then they finally do, and it's like epilogue. It's like, oh no.
The worst kind of surprise you can get. Yeah, but R.I.P., man. I mean,
Yeah.
they definitely have not changed and adopted well enough to the current era of music, I would say, because their later releases are just like, they're just different. Very different. But, I mean, I wish them the best in their future endeavors. I mean, they're pretty old now, so.
Yeah, I mean, they're both in their 50s, I believe. So they've been around for a while. But we're here tonight to talk about this fantastic anime movie. So a little bit of background information, as we always do for these movie reviews. So this movie, which is essentially a collection of music videos that are strung together to make a coherent story, was directed by Kazuhisa Takanoshi, if I could fucking pronounce this right. Is probably the thing he's known most for is working on both the original Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. It was supervised by Leiji Matsumoto, who is known for just any kind of epic space opera in anime. He probably worked on in some way, like Captain Harlock, Space Battleship Yamato, Galaxy Express 999. This is produced by Toei Animation, again, probably best known for being the Dragon Ball studio.
Well, and also like early 2000s was just Toei was the big dog on the scene.
Oh, true. Toei was definitely. I mean, Dragon Ball is still kind of big in anime, but like Toei just doesn't have the name Toei doesn't have the weight it used to have.
No, definitely not.
So this movie was originally released in France on May 18th, 2003, and it had a worldwide release on May 28th. So this is actually a example of an anime that premiered outside of Japan before it premiered in it. Not too many of those. Maybe like 4 or 5. The entire
Is it really anime then?
probably according to Mal, no.
Well, listen, it was made by Toei, dude. Come on, like.
If it's not released in Japan, it's not anime.
Oh my god!
Oh, it was released in Japan. It was just released in Japan after it was released in France.
It's not debuted in Japan.
It was released at what we know now as the International Film Festival in France.
Yes.
The epitome.
The entire movie is based on Daft Punk's second studio album, Discovery. Daft Punk themselves actually came up with the concept of this movie while they were recording Discovery, which is interesting. I always thought it was the other way around, but apparently it wasn't. I always thought Matsumoto came in and, hey, I fucking love your music. Let's make a fucking movie together.
No, so the background for this is that the French duo Daft Punk, while making Discovery, were like, hey, what if we just made up this like super crazy story? And then them and I forget the third guy came up with this storyboard, and then they sent it to Matsumoto, and Matsumoto's like, yo, sounds cool, let's make it. So like, and that's just crazy, you know, like, because according to Daft Punk, they've always idolized Matsumoto for his anime, because it's had, and manga, because they've had a big impact on Daft Punk's childhood lives and the music that they make. So while coming up with this, they got to talk to their, you know, my favorite anime creator director guy, and he was like, dude, let's make a project together, let's collab. Like, well, that's fucking crazy, right?
It is. It is. Especially, like, there was no back push on it. It's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Let me get some money together. Speaking of money, so here comes a slightly depressing statistic. So this was made on a budget of $4 million. We don't know what it is because all the stuff we found doesn't specify the currency. It's either $4 million US dollars or 4 million euros, most likely. But either way, that's not a whole lot of money when you're talking about an anime movie. But the really depressing part of this is whether it's dollars or euros, it only made back 46,408.
Yeah.
That is depressing.
Sad. Which is surprising since Daft Punk was really popular at the time.
Yeah, for sure. You'd think just the name alone would have more weight behind it.
Maybe they should have named the movie put Daft Punk in the name.
I think so too. I feel like because of the name Interstella 55555, the space story seeker, whatever. It's just, it's a lot, you know. It's like, oh, it's just another sci-fi movie.
Like, that name can't even fit on those like little scrolling names that you see on each of the like cinema like entrances. You go into the cinema, like, you don't know what you're going into if you can't even see the name.
There's also
That's
the fact
true.
that this released in like 2003, so, you know, children, gather around, grandpa's got a story to tell. Back in ye old days, when the internet wasn't as big as it was now, it was really hard to get information.
Yeah, it's true. And before anime was anywhere near as big as it was now, you couldn't get any information on anime outside of like very specific sites that no one knew about.
Yeah, so,
But who is this targeted for, though? Children?
I mean,
Because I feel like Daft Punk is not something that children listen to.
I definitely don't think it was targeted towards children. Again, this is obviously, the concept of this and the entire making of it was just a love letter to Matsumoto from Daft Punk, and I think they just wanted to make it. They obviously did not care about making the money back.
Yeah,
No,
clearly.
because the duo Daft Punk have always said that they considered the movie a success, regardless of how much money it made. So, I mean, it was a passion project for them, obviously.
Yeah.
It's still kind of depressing that it made that little bit of money back, because like I don't know this for a fact, but I don't recall this ever having a theatrical release in the United States. So the way I saw it originally was on Toonami, because back in 2001, while this was actually still being worked on, Toonami, I guess, somehow got a hold of like the first 4 quote unquote episodes, i.e. songs, of this movie, and showed it like continuously with no commercial breaks or anything. And like, that's how I saw it originally. And then about 3 or 4 years later, 2004, 2005, I think they showed it in its entirety one night during its programming block. And like, that was number one, that was my first time seeing it. And number two, that was my introduction to Daft Punk as a band or as a duo.
Yeah, see, I was
Wait, you
introduced
didn't hear
to
them on the radio before?
it. Yeah, like,
I did not.
Harder, Better, Faster. Like, everyone used that as a meme song.
Or
back
One
in
More
the day.
Time even was really popular.
I had never heard them on the radio before. I actually saw them on Toonami when they put them on there.
Oh. I mean, so I discovered them when there's this freaking meme page I used to be a part of, or I used to check, called Funny Junk. I'm not sure if that's still around, but there was like some fan animation where they put the song Harder, Better, Faster and to like this like little stupid animation thing, and that's how I discovered Daft Punk. Because right after, this is like middle school, so this is way later in life. So right after, I like looked up the album, and that's how I actually discovered the Interstella 4 or 5 like movie. Like, oh, there's an anime movie.
Honey, I listened to the radio, so that's how I discovered Daft Punk. But also, I did not realize that Interstella existed, and I discovered Interstella today when I watched it.
Interesting. I mean, sure. Last bit of background information. Kind of short for an anime movie. Its runtime is just over 60 minutes. It's at 68 minutes. So, I mean, you can get through it really quick. And also, it's one of those things where once you get through watching it, you don't feel like it's been over an hour.
Yeah, because I don't think that because it's an hour long, it should be classified as a movie, right? Like,
it is feature length.
What do you think it should be classified as?
More like an OVA, but it's a series of music videos, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, I just classify it as a music video, honestly. True.
I mean, it's just a really long music video. But, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. So let's talk about the art. It's a product of its time.
It is old. Holy shit, man. So this obviously released in 2003, but the project started in 2000, I believe. And this is like, when you watch it, it's circa 2003 era animation and cell shading. Like, there's a lot of 2 to 3 frames being repeated with strobing lights. It's very Toei. Like, you definitely look at it and you're like, oh yeah, this is very 80s 90s Toei, right?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with the repeated frames, though, I mean, that was kind of the norm at the time, especially like late 90s. It was a money saving thing for sure.
They blew $4 million on this fucking whatever. I don't understand.
Honestly, I can see that it's $4 million. I mean, some of the visuals are really well done. Like, I particularly like the galactic backgrounds. Like, they were really detailed and pretty, although they weren't necessarily often showed.
Yeah, there are certain scenes that are actually very pretty, and like in Digital Love, when that song is playing, specifically with the fields of like where the dude's in the dream sequence, it's actually really cool. I really like that effect.
That there's also like that particular song has a lot of really good animation in it. Like, it's probably the most fluid animation in the entire movie.
I mean, in general, animation is really expensive, so I'm not surprised when they say that it took $4 million to make this.
I will say one thing I did like, I guess this is more of the art design, is like when you're on the alien planet at the beginning, like the retro future design of all their technology. It's really cool. It looks like if you told someone from the 60s to describe what things in the future would look like.
Yeah, and again, that's just the age of the animation team showing, and the art team, because the people who worked on this were probably born in the 60s.
Yeah, most likely.
More than likely. And
I also love how stereotypically Bishoujo the heroine is. She's like puckered up, hair poofed out, like thin.
I fucking love
she's like,
Stella.
I am a beautiful woman.
She's a fucking bombshell.
I am a blonde bombshell.
She is freaking beautiful, but
I mean, it's an aesthetic that I can get on board with.
But I feel like that's just, again, classic 90s, right? Like the shoujo, like, because this is an era of animation where anime didn't look super cartoony in anime. It was like a blend of realistic life, but also like beautified life.
It was far more realistic than the very moe style we have today.
Yeah, we have moe circly blobs nowadays where it's like super unrealistic proportions. Back in the 90s, everyone used to just be super skinny.
Yeah, that's
just way more realistic.
Or super muscular. Everyone was either like super skinny or super muscular. There was no in between.
Listen, all the cocaine they were doing, everyone was skinny. Anyway,
that's very true. You're not wrong.
I mean, everyone was skinny except for the boobs.
Yeah, no, those are fat.
Well, yeah. Also, watching this last night, it's refreshing to see anime characters with actual noses.
Oh yeah, that's
Oh yeah.
that was the thing anime people used to do. Actually care about
Remember when
noses.
anime characters used to actually have fucking noses?
Yeah.
That was great. um,
What else can we say about the movie though? Let's see.
one thing to note is like when there are action sequences in this movie, the speed of that action in there is not
Yeah.
always consistent.
So freaking in the second song, because that's when the action starts. When the main guitar guy, he's like he's running and it's super fast running. Like it looks so ridiculous.
It's like Sonic levels of running.
Yeah, it's like gotta go fast. Like what is going? And this is a common theme throughout the entire movie, where whenever there are action sequences or fast-paced sequences, it just goes hella fucking fast. Like they animated it like perfectly, and then they hit, hey, you know what? Let's hit ×2, ×3 speed. Like it's so weird.
And you gotta match it up to the beats.
I mean, that's obviously why they did it, because there are certainly sequences where like it follows. So the entire movie revolves around the discography, right? Like from each song from the album of Discovery is the exact order of how the movie is played out. So obviously they did speed up and slow down and have to use repeating frames to match the scene to the song. And
while that works for matching up with the music, it can look hella awkward when you're running.
It looks fucking weird. But I mean, this movie was built around this album, right? That's one of the more unique things about it. And there's no dialogue at all, and very minimal sound effects.
Yeah. And also like a lot of the story, quote unquote, is told through like the facial and body language of the different characters. And I will say that's one thing it nails pretty good, is you never really have to guess what a character is thinking or feeling, because you can look at their face and see it.
I mean, sometimes when the characters were supposed to be looking sad, they just looked like they had overdosed on cocaine, so...
Again, very indicative of the era.
The era has problems with, like, expressing emotions properly through facial expressions, but I mean, I get what they're trying to do.
Yeah. And yeah, like you said, John, like there's no dialogue in this movie whatsoever. There's not even like subtitles, like, you know, in a silent film where you're told what the character is supposed to be saying. So you as the audience member have to kind of figure out what's kind of going on based on what you're seeing and what you're hearing. And I do like the fact that they did include a little bit of sound effects in some of the songs, or over top of some of the songs, just to give it that little bit of atmosphere in some of the sequences. Like there's the scene where what's it? Shep, the one alien that goes to rescue them. I think this is during which song? Night Vision. Where there's like this very soft rain sound that plays over the top of it. I think that was actually a really good choice stylistically.
Yeah, they very minimal, but it works. Like they do have some sound effects, like for the spaceships, but the rain sound effects during even in, I believe, in Digital Love as well, or not Digital Love, the other Shep song,
Something About Us.
Something About Us, yeah. It has the like prelude of the rain happening, and it just sounds so good, and it makes the song even sadder. I was like, oh, I love this song so much. It's one of my favorite songs off of the album. Man. So speaking about the album, the scoring in this entire freaking movie is again, it revolves around Discovery. Like that's just it. There's no sound effects, or rather there's very minimal sound effects. And every single song is off of this Discovery album in that order, which is a weird way to make a movie, right?
It is. I mean, it's certainly not standard. I mean, we've gotten other things like this in anime. You could point to something like Sound and Fury from, what was it, last year or year before last? That was kind of the same thing, where basically an entire sequence of music videos was built around an already established album.
Yeah, that was true. But I felt like Sound and Fury, they they didn't make a coherent story, and they just made a music video for each song and then strung them together and tried to make a story. So I don't think it worked out that well. I still liked it. I mean, storytelling by just using an album is pretty difficult, right?
It is. It's possible, though. Yeah. And then, of course, you can do it with individual songs, too, which was what was done with Shelter back a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of music videos that have been animated. But I think Interstella itself is pretty unique in that it's the whole album that they animated. And, I mean, it's unique for a reason, because like we've said before, it made a huge loss of profit. So, not the best, like, role model for further projects of a similar kind.
True. I mean, if you're talking about just pure profitability, you're right. I mean, obviously the people that made this feel like it was a success because they've talked about it so much.
That's true, but it's hard to like sell that to a producer.
Yeah.
True.
Hey, if you give me $4 million, I'll give you maybe 40,000 back.
That sounds like something I'm totally into. You sign me up.
Are you trying to sell me on a pyramid scheme?
Upside down pyramid scheme.
It's not a pyramid.
But yeah, this is like the first time I've heard the Discovery album in full, and still the singles that were released on the radio were the best songs for me. The romantic songs were like the second best, which were Digital Love and Something About Us, especially because the visuals complemented them really well. And the rest of the album was all right. It wasn't bad. It wasn't like super amazing. It was just all right for me.
I mean, it's fair enough. I mean, I love all the singles from Discovery, but probably my favorite individual song or piece of music is probably Veritas Quo. I don't know why I like that piece of music so much, but I really, really do.
It's the pipe organs.
It probably.
I mean, I'd also agree with Show. Like, my favorites are basically what you would consider the radio hits, like Something About Us, Digital Love, One More Time.
One More Time.
And every other song is also just okay, in my opinion, except Too Long. I didn't like that, the end song, but...
Was it too long for you?
It's a fucking 10-minute song, dude. Come on.
It's a 10-minute long piece of music.
That's way too long. I don't have an attention span for that.
I like there's a story, I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard it, that Tehelman Christo, one of the members of Daft Punk, was so pissed that they couldn't make that a single. I'm like, dude, it's 10 minutes long. No radio station on earth is going to play a 10-minute long song.
I've heard this exact same story before about Bohemian Rhapsody because it was 7 minutes long.
Yeah.
I mean, they usually just do radio edits of long songs that are popular.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing, though. I mean, I think you either really like this kind of music or you really don't. There isn't a whole lot of in between. Maybe there is, I don't know. It just feels like there's people that just kind of like this music, and then there's people that don't. I've never met someone who says they're kind of about electronic music like this.
French house music, yeah.
Yeah.
This is a very specific genre of music too. Like even when Daft Punk made its way over to the US, it was very specifically because of how weird it was. Like,
yeah.
This is before.
I think that people like club owners wanted to play their music just because it was so different than anything else they were playing.
Well, this is before the huge boom of EDM, right? Like electric dance music did not really start taking off until like 2010s and above, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
sometime around that time, yeah.
That's when it all really started getting super popular. Like it started gaining traction towards the late like 2008 and above, but at the time, like circa very late 90s, very early 2000s, house and all that stuff was generally only loved by people who like rave music and stuff like that. So it's again, Daft Punk, weird band, weird album.
But But I have to say, a lot of the electronic and EDM music that's made today owes a lot to Daft Punk, because they were the ones back in the day that got this popular enough to eventually be on the radio and then have its own like independent genre like this that competes on the level of something like rock or pop music.
Yeah, I definitely say like the stylings of other EDM artists, like I don't know, Deadmau5, Volo. Like Deadmau5 even has the whole the helmet thing, right? The whole helmet thing that he definitely copied from Daft Punk, because to him he was like, oh yeah, I love Daft Punk, you know. But I think
there's a lot of electronic artists out there that that cover their face up in some way when they go out on stage and perform. I think a lot of that is just a nod to Daft Punk.
There's also Marshmello, but yeah,
well,
like, listen, I like EDM, okay. But
I mean, there's also technically Vocaloid is EDM sometimes.
I mean, Vocaloid can be anything. We're
not gonna go there.
No, we're not. Because we need to talk about the narrative.
Yeah, let's talk about the actual story to wrap this up. So, I mean, while there is a story and a narrative structure that's built around these songs, I can't say that it's a terribly complex story.
Yeah,
I mean, it's more complicated than I thought it would be, honestly.
I don't know. I felt like it was very simple, because I mean, they're not telling a very crazy story, first and foremost, and there's like parallels to the shady business practices of the music industry. That's really like the only parallel that it has in the movie in a moral sense. But the actual structure and narrative of the movie itself, it was, here's the big bad evil man. Ooh. Take down the
here's the big bad evil man that definitely looks exactly like the big bad evil man would look.
Yeah.
I was so confused what the moral, like, message was supposed to be, because I'm like, there's whitewashing going on, there's blackface going on, there's colonization going on. What is happening?
There's slavery going on.
I really don't know.
I'm pretty sure there's not supposed to be some overarching message in this story. If there is, I mean, good on them, because I completely fucking missed it.
Yeah, other than the parallel, I really don't think it was just a dramatic movie of like, oh, here's a big bad guy doing big bad things. Here's our hero come to save the day. Oh, sad things happen, and then it fucking...
But because every single song on the Discovery album has like this different sort of pacing to it, each chapter, quote unquote, of the story also the pacing varies wildly, because sometimes you're like, everyone's got to go, and then it's immediately followed by this, all right, let's stop and look at everybody now.
Yeah. And again, it's just one of the challenges with building a freaking movie around an album. Even if it's a good album, it's still pretty hard, because no one really makes an album with the thought of like, oh, I'm gonna make a coherent story with my entire album. It's very rare for artists to do that. I wouldn't say it's rare, but
it's rarer now than I think it ever has been. I think you can say back in the day with like the prog rock artists, a lot of them tried to build their entire albums around the idea of telling a story with their music. Like I think someone like Pink Floyd, right? You could literally tell a story with their music.
Yeah, that's why so many fucking laser rock shows are themed on Pink Floyd, I swear.
But yeah, it's not like, especially with pop music today, there's very few instances you can point to where an entire album of like a pop artist is used to tell an overarching story.
I feel like they could have possibly improved it by like not playing the album all consecutively and maybe taking breaks and putting in some voice lines, because like a lot of music videos do that, and it kind of helps the story that they're trying to tell.
It could have. I think just telling or playing the songs out of order might have just helped a lot.
True.
But you got to think, this was the first of its kind, right? Like obviously everyone else who makes music videos nowadays that try to follow this format to make a story off of their at least one song or something where they take breaks and tell the story and narrative, that's like they learned from Daft Punk's Interstella. Like, okay, so we get that you can tell a story with music, but you can't just overlay the album and play it until it ends. That does not make
Yeah.
a great movie.
Yeah, I mean, you could
it
try.
could have been worse. It wasn't the best, but it's not horrible.
Yeah, like
True.
surprisingly, even with all of the faults that and absences of a lot of things in a what you would consider like an anime movie, the story does pretty well. Like I enjoyed the story. You get the gist of all of it. You have the heroes you want to back. You have the villains that you hate, and you just listen to the music, and it's I don't know, man. It's entertaining as fuck. I really enjoyed it.
You said it though, like it certainly had its flaws, and there are parts of it that haven't aged incredibly well. But I think when you take it for as the sum of its parts, like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, right? Because like you can sit there and you can point to all the issues that it has and say, well, it's bad because of this, it's bad because of that. But then when you look at it as a whole, I look at it and think, wow, this is really good.
And there's also the fact that Leiji Matsumoto was supervising this project, and Daft Punk, this movie expresses a lot of Captain Harlock and like Galaxy Express 999, where it's like it has romanticized notions of death. So it's not like there is a boring story in there. It's still, again, to me, very simple and very basic, but there is a story that you can follow that I think works really well with some of the songs in this movie. So
yeah. And by the way, if you're out there listening to this and you haven't seen anything by Leiji Matsumoto, I highly recommend it.
Captain Harlock.
They're good stories.
Captain Harlock's really good.
Yeah, Captain Harlock. The original Captain Harlock is great if you can get past the 70s animation quality. But the story is fantastic. So I guess wrapping this up, there's really nothing to say except what do we all give this? Because for me, personally, it's one of only 2 anime movies I've ever given a 10 out of 10 to. The only other one being Makio and the Promised Flower Blooms.
Show.
I do not like anime movies. I'm sure everyone knows this. I gave it a 5 out of 10, which is not as bad as it sounds. It's like it didn't annoy me, but it didn't impress me. It was just like, this is nice. This is okay. I get it.
Okay.
5 out of 10.
So you're saying it's just okay.
It's just okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think it's a fair assessment.
So for me, I give it a 10 out of 10, but I'm biased as fuck because I like Daft Punk and I love the Discovery album. Like if I weren't so biased, I'd probably also give it a very average rating of a 5, maybe even a 4, just because there isn't a lot in this as a movie, as a standalone project, but it's again, like Alex said, it's the sum of its parts is greater, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, and you can tell, like, you can 100% tell it's a passion project, and there was a lot of passion put into it.
Yeah, like, it's not the best out there. There's not amazing story. There's no voice acting. And
No.
The only thing really carrying it is the fact that it's the Discovery album from Daft Punk. And
Now, I would like to ask, because I think all 3 of us here are we love music a lot. Would you want to see more stuff like this in anime, like more anime music, like professionally produced anime music videos like this, where there's actually an attempt to tell a coherent story across an entire album?
oh yeah, like on our God, how long ago was that when we made
It's
Sound of
probably about a
Fury?
year ago or so when we talked about it.
Yeah, my answer still hasn't changed. Like, I would love to see more of this because I just love immersive storytelling, and it's really hard to make a story out of an album, out of music, right? And you really have to rely on the power, the talents of the people working on this project to do immersive storytelling, to make a coherent story.
As a big Lady Gaga fan, I can appreciate a good music video. But no, seriously, I really do like when artists go out of their way to make a really detailed and interesting music video. So I'm definitely up for whatever creative experimentation artists want to do with their music videos, including animation.
Yeah, I think
Which
that's
is one
kind
thing.
of
Okay, this one.
Go ahead.
Like I was just saying how I like creative music videos, which is Interstella definitely is. But this one thing that really pissed me off was that like the whole story was revolved around a band performing at a concert, which is like the most basic idea I've ever had. Like, every single artist and every single music video goes up and does a concert. I'm like, okay, that's how we're gonna start this. But
Again,
fine.
product of its time, right?
Yeah, I mean, before streaming, I'd like to say that this you can actually see people streaming a fucking concert in this damn anime. Wow, it was way ahead of its time, wasn't it?
Sure, why not?
Not in the beginning when they're doing one more time. You can actually see people on the alien planet streaming the music concert. But yeah, I mean, that's back in the day. That's how people were entertained by music. They go to concerts.
I mean,
No,
people still
it's
go
not
to
back
concerts,
in the day. It's
but...
still current artists. You see the most latest music video, it's gonna be some hoe performing at a concert. Basic then, basic now. Get a better concept.
On that note, thank you all out there for dropping in to listen to us. Check the description below to find links to Anime Club After Dark on Twitch, on social media, and on Discord. Check out our merch store and our affiliate links as well. Any purchases you make there do really help us out. With that, I have been your host, Alex, and I will see you next time. Say goodnight, everybody.
Earl the Darkwood.
What
Where
a
was
funny name.
Kanye?
Wait, where was ye at?
I came for Kanye, and he
give it time.
He just ghosted me.
By the way, thank you, Daft Punk, for 28 years of good music. Gonna miss you.